Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Martin Rothwell. I'm a senior lecturer here at the Open University. If I just allow my colleagues just to introduce herself as well.
Hello, I'm Alton Thompson, also a senior lecturer.
Fantastic. We're hosting a session today. This is third in a series about supporting employers, mainly focused at sort of SMEs in regards to apprenticeships, the pain, the love of them. And again, there's some statistics here in this sort of slide deck today that kind of just really invokes why SMEs are a prime market for apprenticeships by default, and about talent development in general because of how vital you are to the UK sort of economy. Just to let people be aware that the session is recorded. You're more than welcome to keep cameras and microphones off. There will be a period of time at the end for questions off the recording. So again, once we start, we'll hang around for the remainder of the session. You can ask questions off the recording. Cool. It's kind of housekeeping done. Okay, there was a very recent report released on the 1st of June, so just the start of this week, from Skills England, and it's their annual skills report. And for anyone that does have sort of 30 minutes, 45 minutes of their time to review it, it is worth an interesting read. One of the key stats that I just wanted to pull out is the one that you can see on screen there, and the main sort of crux of that being that 99.9% of UK firms are sort of SME businesses, and they uphold the sort of UK economy. And 6% of the private sector workforce is sort of enlisted within that sort of shell as well. One thing that we know from being involved in this space is that SME employers do struggle to recruit individuals. And again, there's various reasons for that. An apprenticeship should offer a part of the solution. It's not the only solution. And again, today it's just a run through people that are thinking about getting into this space, about trying to make that sequencing a little bit easier for you, because it's you don't know what you don't know. And if someone can just, from ourselves, from a provider point of view, just guide you in the right direction, that's what we're hoping to do today. So the key thing with the government sort of legislation at the moment, not to get too political, but we're at a weird reform point where lifelong learning is something that we sort of encourage as a provider, but there is a high prioritisation on youth skill development. We can see that with defunding of sort of things like the level 7 apprenticeships and a refocus in foundational apprenticeships that are coming through, and again, the sort of revalidation of apprenticeship assessments, which I'll come on to a little bit in the sort of later stage of the presentation. There's again a number of statistics on the screen there. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but the interesting one at the bottom, 67.5% of adult skill funding has now devolved. We are seeing clear markers towards a youth sort of talent development session of, businesses should be looking at this lower age bracket of individuals in order to sort of possibly deal with their digital skills gaps that they're experiencing, which is what apprenticeships sort of from 2015 and the degree apprenticeship space at least came on board for, was to solve that digital skills gap. The one interesting one for me as well, there just in the middle, 70% of UK workers are exposed to AI-driven task change. And from our presentation that was given last week, we can see why AI is starting to become, again, a higher priority within business workforces as well. But a 24% growth in our sector here, digital sector, over the next decade. And I don't think that's news to anybody. One key thing that we want to express within this presentation is the necessity to build relationships with FE colleges. We ourselves as a higher education provider understand that sort of that high demand to make sure that the funnel is correctly set up. As employers, you have a great amount of power, and there's a lot of demand to have your voice in those spaces along with our own. Again, just to the middle one, sort of in the first sort of instance, the curriculum influence. As employers, your voice is king. If you're able to get into those channels and say that what our skills gaps are X, Y, and Z, we have people that are building curriculum and they need that input. There will be advisory boards, working groups, trailblazer groups crying out for individual employers to get involved and have that voice very clearly sort of shaken into there. One way that I've seen from my own experience within this, because I've worked in apprenticeships now for nearly 20 years in FE and HE environments, is the ability to utilise things like the current T levels in order to get access to the brighter talent that's available to you from the FE college in a trial sort of situation. So instead of taking an apprentice on, T levels allow you a sort of 45-day period of internship to get a better understanding of the individuals you might be looking to make an offer of an apprenticeship to. And again, an FE college will be able to support that, structure it. And again, there is a massive demand for employers to support that T level sort of integration of work-based placement. So the demand's there. It's just making sure those conversations are happening. And again, employers going to the FE college will be greeted with a lot of sort of like, you're brilliant, you're coming to us, this is great. The other good thing there is that the FE colleges are set up for apprenticeships and vocational study. They will help you with recruitment support. So again, if you're going in, and again, speaking from sort of the trenches on this, we would set up sort of days where people would do sort of events, and kind of filtrate the sort of populace down and go, we have 10 people that are interested in an apprenticeship. You can come and meet them, do a bit of a skills day. And the FE college is quite accepting of that because they understand the trajectory of where these students need to go and the importance for the employer. And those relationships are just, it's like it says at the top, it's just synergy to be built, and it's part of you getting involved in that curriculum. Coming into that space then of, Martin, I'm not quite sure what I should be asking for from this, because if I do a job description, I can email that, or I can do that, not an issue, but I've never looked at an apprentice before, so what am I looking at? The thing is, and I've seen this both ways, one where employers don't quite get it and ones where they do, asking for a CV and then seeing that they've only worked at McDonald's or another sort of skill, a college job, and then saying we're going to refuse you on that experience is illogical. What we are looking for is that shift in, if you as an individual are given the opportunity to work with us, what is it that you bring? And it's that skills and competencies. One of the best examples I ever saw was a student who was very much into networking. He'd done all the CCNA sort of study within the sort of college environment, gone home and set up a home lab. He was buying bits and pieces off eBay. And it was the one thing that immediately the employer went, I get it. You would fit in here so well. And it will stick me forever. It was the citation from the guy that was doing it from the employee perspective. And he's like, I'm not interested in the skills. We can deal with that, but the hunger, the motivation, the ethos, that's what I'm interested in getting out of this today. And I thought that's the perfect way to sort of approach this. Not the, have you got a CV with 10 years experience? That's not going to happen. But is this person going to fit in my business, and are they motivated to do well? And again, just towards the end point of that as well, it's just making sure you understand the landscape that you're wanting to put this apprentice into as well. I focus this just on the programs that we offer, but there are a wide variety of apprenticeships out there, so I don't want to just be agnostic to ours. But on level 4 versus level 6, if you're looking at someone at level 4, it's a different use case to what someone is at level 6. Someone at level 4 is best for sort of bringing someone into the business, that quick win. This person's probably going to be sort of a lower tier junior, and be happy with that and progressing the business naturally. Whereas someone that's level 6 is someone that's still on that graduate mentality. They're wanting to become a graduate. They have that university mentality to them, and may not be as hands-on as what a level 4 student coming from level 3 may be. So there's pros and cons across all these kind of things, and it's just understanding your want and then mixing that in with what's available to you within this sort of space. When onboarding apprentices, there's no right way, wrong way to do this. Some of these sort of things that I've explained over the years of doing this with employers is just making sure that you have a structured induction process. I've seen a variety of different ways of doing this. Again, like I say, there is no right or wrong way, but just making sure that you do understand this person's coming to the business, this is what we need to set out from day one. Again, speaking to the providers, FE, ourselves as HE sort of providers, we can offer our guidance and advice on those kind of things, but you know best. It's your culture, it's your sort of mentality. You know what you want to do this person in the first couple of weeks with them. The other key one for me, the make or break really in this sort of apprenticeship space, is assigning a very good work-based mentor that has the time to support that apprentice and their queries and their questions. It's the linchpin that makes a good apprenticeship versus one where the apprenticeship will complete, but perhaps this is not the best experience for everyone that's been involved. And I've seen that multiple times over. And that's a difficult one to sort of feel out in the first instance, but it's the biggest thing that you should think about before bringing someone into the business. Do we have someone to support them? Can we make sure that we have the work available for them? If there is problems or priorities or X, Y, can they speak to someone and, or get that advice and guidance urgently, or are they going to sit there and struggle? And that's not a good position to be in. Employee responsibilities, there's a whole list there again for people to go through on the recording. A few that I'll just pull out. The off-the-job training is the paramount one. As an employer, you need to protect that sort of time off the job. The government is saying now a 6 hours sort of minimum. We would always work as a sort of environment to go 20% 1 day a week. It's a minimum value in our head. That if you're asking someone to upskill and become new talent in your business, to do that on a shoestring and say you can do that in 6 hours a week probably isn't the best approach to this. They have to be accepting of that 1 day a week and that investment that you're going to give into that sort of person there. One of the key ones that another colleague of mine was sort of expressing, I thought was a really valid point, and it's the early encouragement to participate in regular meetings, ceremonies, stand-ups, whatever it is you do as a sort of culture within your environment. But making them part of the team as early as possible allows them to strike that curiosity and go, oh, I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z. And the natural maturity then of work-based shadowing, can I go see what this team is doing? Going to get some more advice and guidance on what this person's doing over here. And we start to see that curiosity sort of build and that apprentice fit into the business in different ways, shapes or forms. And the last one is the one that unfortunately we have to hammer home in the onboarding process for ourselves, and that is, does this job role satisfy the apprenticeship standard? Will you be able to generate evidence for this apprentice's portfolio? And we will make sure that you map that accordingly, because without that, the apprenticeship just can't start. It would be a something we tell yourself and the apprentice to walk away from, because if they can't generate the evidence in the job role, we are stuck and we will not see success on the apprenticeship. So that's a key one for us as a sort of big thing. I won't spend too long on this, but just for anyone that isn't aware, the apprenticeships themselves are going through a period of sort of assessment reform, and the endpoint assessment, which is a sort of cliff dive at the end. We'll do all of this work, get to the end, and then say, right, can you check that you're competent now after 3 years of delivery and assessments and experience? What apprenticeships are moving to is this new thing called apprenticeship assessment, and that will happen over the duration of the apprenticeship itself. So there's a lot more harmony with the provider and the employer to go from day one. We can actually assess you. So we're not looking at this high risk, high stress scenario of going in 36 months time. There's going to be an exam, you'll either pass or fail. There's a lot riding on that, and that's not great. So it's a positive in the sense that, like I say, the harmony between providers and employers will be better. It's a lower stress environment for apprentices. They will perform much earlier and start generating impact earlier. So the reform is welcomed. It's just happening over staged environments. So, for example, our networking apprenticeship will have this first, and then it might be another 6 to 8 months before the software developer has that, and then question mark on when the level 6 DTSP will have that. So we're in that period of reform with a couple of question marks on timelines, but it's a very positive space at the moment in order to see a change for employers, providers, and apprentices that's going to work out really well. I thought I'd just address some quick challenges that I've experienced when dealing with apprentices, employers and providers. And again, I won't read all of them on this sort of slide deck here, but balancing operational demands with learning time. The protected off the job time is paramount to success, along with the sort of mentor situation. Again, the limited confidence and experience that apprentices have, that will grow over time. The more exposure they have, the better they'll be within your business. Insufficient exposure to tasks we've already spoken about. Motivational dips. This is an interesting one on the longer courses. Sort of when they get to month 27 out of 36, they start to go, oh, I can't wait for this to finish. And it's just making sure that journey is really sort of mapped out and the support's there, and they are working to their best capacity and not being sort of like stressed out too much. And again, back to that reform, that will ease that kind of stuff there. And the other one, I suppose, communication gaps is really important, and that's not just between employer apprentice, mentor apprentice, provider, employer. It's everyone needs to have that synergy, and we have tripartite reviews that happen quarterly in order to make sure that communication's happening. And again, it's for all involved to be positive. I thought I'd end on this nice quote. We've used it in the slide deck previously, but it does really harmonise what sort of we're looking for as an SME coming into this space. And it's, you know, those skills growing over time. So then that individual is competent at the end of this. That's the journey, that's the mission. And it goes back to that employer maybe 15, 16 years ago, and just sitting there and say, what can this person do for me on Monday? That's what I'm interested in. And have they got the right attitude? And it's like, yeah, because it will happen over time. If you have the right people in the right space with the right mentality, this can be an absolute golden egg situation for employers, apprentices and providers too. Cool. I'll bring that to a close, but again, please do look at the website that's on the screen there if you want a little bit more information about getting in touch with the Open University and our apprenticeship provision. And again, there's sort of more social links there available.